Alright, so, yes, I'm clearly trying to push off Theodore Rex for as long as I can, because it's not the Theodore Rex review. Excuse me. I'm going to talk to you about Nicktoons. Nicktoons are cartoons created specifically for Nickelodeon, but I'm going to talk about the ones I grew up with to a certain point in my life. And to talk about these, we gotta go all the way back to August 11th, 1991. 3 Nicktoons made their premiere. They were Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy. And the first one to make its premiere was Doug. Doug told the story of Doug Funny, who moved with his family to the town of Bluffington. It is him, his mom and dad, his sister, whose name I forget, and his dog, Judy, his sister Judy, and his dog named Porkchop. Yes. Soon afterwards, he meets a new best friend named Skeeter Valentine. And he falls in love with a girl named, or has a crush on, I should say, it's a girl name, named Patty Mayonnaise. I'm not kidding you, that's her name, but he gets trouble from a bully named Roger Klotz, who has a cat of his own and some friends. And there's his neighbor, Mr. Dink, hi, Douglas, and his wife, who would eventually become the mayor. That's in the Disney version, though. The mayor in this one, though, is a cool guy with a white toupee. Kind of looks like Donald Trump, but he's cooler, and he has the catchphrase, vote for me. And it's basically about this regular kid going to school, but he does have, as all kids do, fantasies, daydreams about being a superhero named Quail Man with a belt on its head, and I can never get my belts to stay up like that. I go flop down. Or being a secret agent named Smash Adams, who is supposed to be a James Bond-like secret agent. It's good, clean, fun, adventure ho, and all that stuff. It's fun. I recommend it. Next on the list, we got probably, besides SpongeBob, Nickelodeon's most iconic Nicktoon, Rugrats. And Rugrats, well, the Rugrats, Rugrats was about 5 babies: Tommy, Chucky, Phil and Lil, and Angelica. She's technically a toddler, but And it's basically the misadventures of babies who don't understand things, weird stuff. Their dad, or Tommy's dad, is an inventor. Chucky's dad is allergic to everything. Phil and Lil's parents are, Howard, their father, is a little bit, a bit of a, he's not as out there as their mom. Their mom, Betty, could possibly be a lesbian, but she's not, even though she's more sportsmanlike. She's just tough. This day and age, though, if they remade it, she would be a lesbian. And then you have Angelica's parents, which are, Angelica is Tommy's cousin. And it's father, who I don't know what he does, Drew, and her mom is a business lady who has a indistinguishable man named Jonathan. What I mean by that is that he's purple, so I don't know what race he's supposed to be. Some people say he's African American, but then you have Susie Carmichael, who's African American with her family, and they look African American. Jonathan is just purple. For the Rugrats movie, they brought on Dill Pickles, which was foreshadowed in an episode before that, where Dee Dee, shows that she's pregnant, and so she gives birth to Dill in the movie, and the later episode, and an episode after that would incorporate Dill. And then after Rugrats in Paris, they would incorporate Kimmy, her mom, and their dog Fifi, and a dog that Spike and Fifi, their child, would be, in there. And then there was Harold. And then there was a spin-off, which I'll get to later. The third one, and final of the August 1991 releases, was Ren and Stimpy. I think this picture of Stimpy with wieners in his nose says all I need to say. This is what the kids nowadays would say is not safe for work. Back in the day, though, this was the shit. Let me tell you. And my mom always told me, you can't watch that show. And I never understood why. And then I bought this DVD set and I started watching it. And I went, oh, I get why. This shouldn't be for kids, but it is. But yes, this was, I don't know how to explain it, but just happy, joy, powder toast man and a horse. After that, though, the next show would be Rocco's Modern Life, which is like a watered-down version of Ren and Stimpy, but it was fun. You had Rocco, who is a wallaby, and has an Australian accent because of that. He has a dog named Spongy, and a best friend named Heifer, who did not sneeze, who is a cow raised by wolves. Tell me how that works, because wolves eat cows. And another friend named Filbert, who is like a germaphobe, and he's one of those. He's the cautious one. He's the one. Turn the page, wash your hands. You turn the page, wash your hands. I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous. There's a guy who is a foot. Filbert's girlfriend is a something. I forgot. Oh, she has a hook for a hand. That's what it was. Then there's really, really big man. His neighbors are frogs. Mr. and Mrs. Big Head. There's Heck. Isn't it supposed to be? No. They don't go that far. Oh, and by the way, they have a restaurant called the Choky Chicken. Just putting that out there. But yeah. Next on the docket is Real Monsters. This is the one I watched a lot when I was younger. It's about 3 monsters. Ickis, Oblina, and Crumb. Crumb, which he holds his own eyeballs. I can't be good holding his eyeballs up all day. How does he... He has no eyelids. How does he sleep? But there are monsters in training. And they are learning to scare. Under the wise teachings of the Grumble, who I thought for the longest time was voiced by Tim Curry, but it's not. But, yes. And it's about them trying to scare people, and they can't because they don't know how. And fun adventures with that, and it somehow lasted 4 seasons. Yeah, it's a fun watch. Next is another one of their big hits. Hey Arnold! Minute. And this, like Doug, follows just an average kid in an average town, but this time I think it's New York or Philadelphia, whatever one it was, but yeah, PS 182. And it follows Arnold, his best friend Gerald, and then there's also Helga, who's on the back here, who has a secret crush on Arnold but won't ever admit it because she wants, she's the bully type character. Her best friend's name is Phoebe. There's an episode where someone with an accent calls her Phoebe. And then there's Gerald. There's Eugene, who has bad luck. There's the stoop kid, who won't leave his stoop. There's Monkey Man. And Grandpa, who always called him Short Man, and then blew my mind when in the, spoiler alert, the Jungle movie that was released 20 years later, it's revealed that Arnold's last name is Shortman, which means he's been calling him by his last name the whole freaking time. Next was a show called Kablam, which was a sort of cartoon sketch show hosted by two cartoon characters named Henry and June. And you had Life with Loopy, Sniz and Fondue, Action League Now, which we get their own spin-off later, which didn't do so well, but it was a fun watch. But the next big show to talk about, oh, Angry Beavers. These are about two beaver brothers who were kicked out of their home when they were old enough to be on their own and now have to survive on their own. And it's basically that. They go on strange adventures. There's one with a stinky toe, and there's one with if they stop brushing their teeth and they keeps growing, or no, they stop chewing on wood, and their teeth keep growing because they don't chew on wood. I don't know. After that was Cat Dog, which was about a cat and a dog born together, Siamese twins, cat and dog. How did they poop? To this day, we still don't know. And yeah, really all there is to it. It's a cat and a dog do together wacky adventures. Oh Yeah Cartoons was Nickelodeon's answer to What a Cartoon Show. Basically, their mix of cartoon shows, which would also give future cartoons like Chalk Zone and The Fairly Odd Parents a shot in there. I was supposed to use this for Cat Dog. There's Cat Dog. Okay, next we have the Wild Thornberries, which follow Eliza Thornberry and her parents, Nigel Thornberry, and her mom. And he hosts a wildlife show, and Eliza gets the ability to talk to animals. And that's basically it. Each episode was about her meeting a new animal and trying to help them out. It was fun, interesting. And now's the part where we talk about this little moneymaker, Spongebob Squarepants. Look, the first two seasons of the show were fantastic. After that, it went, and the stuff that they air nowadays is completely unwatchable, but the first two seasons are fine. My brother got obsessed with it. Moving on. Next was Aztol Rocket Power, which was basically 4 kids. They had roller skates. Their dad owned a diner or an outside cafe thing with a Jamaican guy who may or may have not been a pothead. We don't know. And yeah, extreme sports. Extreme! Because this was the end of the 90s, right? After that was As Told by Ginger, which I didn't really watch as much. I watched it here and there when there was nothing else on. It was one of those girly type shows. It was fine. Fairly Odd Parents lasted almost as long as SpongeBob SquarePants. It was about Timmy. It was one of those ones that started from cartoons about Timmy Turner. And he has a babysitter named Vicky who's so mean that he's given Fairly Odd Parents to help him out. And each episode is a different wish. And throughout the years, they added some things in there like a baby that Cosmo gave birth to. That's the dude. And his name is Poof. There's the Anti-Fairies, which they have a baby named Foop, which is backwards. There was a Fairly Odd Fairy Godparent dog, whose name I don't remember. And then the last ditch effort was that there was a girl named Chloe, which had to share the Fairly Odd Parents because they're on a shortage or something. I don't know. I wasn't really watching at that point. Invader Zim was about an alien who was sent to Earth. He thinks to invade it, but he was just sent there to get out of the way. And every episode was about him trying to do something to invade the Earth, whether it's eating people's intestines or, there's Dib, who is his classmate, who's trying to stop. Yeah, he disguised himself as a kid. Maybe he is a kid. I don't know, but it's a weird show. It got a movie like a couple years ago. It's a weird show. Action League Now was the spin-off of Kablam, which focused just on the Action League Now, which I'll explain to you here. Action League Now is basically action figures. There's Wonder Girl, The Flesh, who's just this naked doll. Stinky Diver and Melt Man with power to melt. Their big enemy is the mayor. I don't know. Chalk Zone was another spin-off of cartoons, and it followed Rudy, who had the ability to draw a doorway into a world filled with chalk, and he had this little character whose name escapes me right now. I'm sure Big L to Radio's going to smack me upside the head and say, hey, it's this, and I'll welcome that because I'm an idiot for not remembering it. But, yeah, I remember that being pretty cool. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, however, started off as a movie and got its own TV show. And the show was just as good as the movie. This is the Jet Fusion DVD. Plus 6. Featured Jimmy Neutron. He creates something. Like the first episode they gave was sort of a preview for the movie. And the first episode was about pants attacking. I think it was called When Pants Attacked or something like that. And it was really weird. And that got me into it. And so the show was also pretty good. All Grown Up was the spin-off of Rugrats and featured them all as teenagers. And it was basically Rugrats, but now they're teenagers and they understand things more and things are a little more not as funny as before, but still pretty cool. Grandpa's still falling asleep, so that's cool, type thing. And My Life as a Teenage Robot, which is another one I didn't really get into. My brother watched that one. XJ9 and all that stuff with the robotic girl who wants to be a teenager. It's like Invader Zim. How do you not tell? Right. The last one I want to talk about is Danny Phantom. And this was the last real Nicktoon that I really got into. I don't count Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I know it's on the list of Nicktoons, but that was a franchise long before the Nicktoon name even existed. So that's why I cannot in good conscience count it as a Nicktoon. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a franchise on its own, and Nickelodeon is not going to take that away from it. Right? But this was the last really good ones in it. I tried watching Tough Puppy, and it wasn't for me. There were some other ones that I just kind of rolled my eyes at. Nothing really spectacular, And now they're doing a SpongeBob spin-off about when they were kids. But the problem is Mr. Krabs, Plankton, and Sandy, and what's her name? Coral? Pearl. Something like that. Are there, even though SpongeBob wouldn't know them. He and Patrick could have been friends when they were kids, but he didn't meet Sandy until after the show was already on the air. Until he was an adult. I think they're supposed to be adults. But yes. Oh, and I'll be remiss if I didn't at least mention Avatar: The Last Airbender. Look, I never really got into this show. And I tried. But the first episode, I'm sitting there watching, I think it's okay. And then we get Penguin! And I went, turn the channel. I don't know what I was supposed to think, but I laugh about it to this day. I don't hate it. You like Avatar, and there's a lot out there, by all means, go ahead. It just wasn't for me. Alright, Avatar: Last Airbender, not my cup of tea. And no surprise, neither is Korra. The Legend of Korra, which is their sequel to that, I think. From the same animators, that's all I know. There's some other ones, like Mr. Meaty, which wasn't really an animated Nicktoon, but they played it on Nicktoons a lot, and it wasn't on the list. And there was one about these two aliens in a ship. I don't remember what it was called, but they didn't put that as one either, which was kind of weird. But yeah, that's the Nicktoons. They were part of my childhood, and I'll never forget that. I think if I had to, let me do a quick ranking for you, not counting Teenage Robot and Aztol by Ginger. At the bottom will be Astro League Now. Never really cared for the Solar series of that. Followed by, I think, Chalk Zone. Oh Yeah cartoons. Kablam. SpongeBob. Yes, I like SpongeBob better than those. At least the early ones. Fairly Odd Parents. Jimmy Neutron. All Grown Up. Danny Phantom. Let's see. Rocket Power. Invader Zim. Cat Dog. Kablam! Angry Beavers. Real Monsters. Ren and Stimpy. Hey Arnold. Rocco's Modern Life. Doug. And Rugrats #1. I believe that's all of them. If I missed one, I don't care. But I believe that's all. Rugrats will be #1. It's a quick ranking. I did a top. I was going to do a top 10, but I figured I'll just talk about them for about 20 minutes, you know? It's fun. I'm also going to do this with Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And yeah. Nick at Night. But Nick at Night, I think, will be a top 10. Because there's so much that I could talk about from those. I think a top 10 would be easier for me to do. But keep an eye out for those. And yes, I promise I am going to watch this. I'm just putting it off as much as I can. Alright? So what are your thoughts on the Nicktoons? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. We'll see you in the next one.